State Police responds to new evidence in the Kyren Lacy case. We have reaction. It's Locked on LSU. Here we go.
You are Locked on LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. We're free, available wherever you get great podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. As always, one of the fastest ways to help us grow is by leaving your comments below. So thank you sincerely for that. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today at FanDuel.com. On Friday, attorney Matt Ory, who is the attorney representing former LSU receiver Kyren Lacy in his vehicular homicide and felony hit and run case, disclosed evidence that he had gathered through discovery. We did an episode here on the show and hope you got to see that or listen to it. If you didn't, you can go back to the previous episode and check it out. And that episode and that evidence was pretty convincing that the fatal crash from December of 2024, for which Kyren Lacy was charged and arrested, had almost nothing to do with Kyren Lacy. There was a 44-minute interview that attorney Matt Ory did with HTV10 in Houma, where he effectively divulged all of the evidence that he had gathered through discovery and through the pre-trial discovery process, or the pre-trial process, that would have certainly been shown to a grand jury in Lafourche Parish, which I believe, completely speculative, as we say it here, which I believe would have exonerated Kyren Lacy. I did watch the full 44-minute interview. I'm not giving you opinions based on a 4-minute clip on Twitter that many of you have seen, or even if you watched the previous episode of this podcast where we showed you that clip. I watched the entirety of the interview and the full disclosure from attorney Matt Ory. And a lot of people have suggested, I believe, my opinion, I'm editorializing here, rightfully, that with Kyren Lacy roughly 100 yards behind the accident, that he could not have been responsible. I agree with you. My opinion, I agree with you. I don't know how that's possible. Maybe you could argue that 100 yards away, as Kyren was on a 2-lane highway, moving into the left lane to pass, the cars that he was head on with, roughly 100 yards away, might have gotten disturbed and swerved into oncoming traffic. That seems to be the argument. It just doesn't seem to hold any weight whatsoever, as we've disclosed here. And if you go through the full and the entirety of the evidence and the statements and the body camera footage and the body cam footage, from State Police, speaking with witnesses and the surveillance footage of the wreck, it is very clear that Kyren Lacy's vehicle, his green Charger, had nothing to do with this wreck. As a matter of fact, at the time of impact, several seconds pass, another vehicle approaches and passes the wreck, and then subsequently, Kyren Lacy in a green Charger approaches and passes the wreck. It's very difficult to explain how anyone could watch just that clip and assume or deduce that Kyren Lacy had anything to do with that wreck. It's very compelling, as we've been through. And that, I give you this preamble, and I realize we're 4-5 minutes into the show now. And many of what I just said you already know, but I give you that preamble because it's very hard to understand where state police comes from with the statement they issued. So Attorney Ori presents a 44-minute case with all of the evidence that he has. It's very compelling. The public sentiment, mine included, looks at all of this evidence and says, how in the world could you possibly arrive at the conclusion that Kyren Lacy was at fault, that this was vehicular homicide, that this was certainly, how could you arrive at the conclusion that this was felony hit and run? He didn't hit anyone. He wasn't within 100 yards of the accident. But state police released a statement. I want to read this statement for you now because I'm assuming many of you, it's not very long, so please don't be bored by this. But it's something I want to read to you because this continues to prove to be more and more complex. The statement from state police reads, investigative findings reveal that Mr. Lacy's reckless driving while approaching oncoming traffic led to the events of the crash. The findings were presented to the 17th Judicial District Court, which approved an arrest warrant based on the evidence collected. So keep in mind, they're saying we investigated in December into January. The 17th Judicial said, yep, issue a warrant. I'll continue quoting. As with all investigations leading to arrest, the subjects of the investigation are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. No one disputes that he, Kyren Lacy, was behind the crash scene. How could you? It's on video. And this is the line that gets me. It's the final line of this statement. Kyren Lacy, his swerving, passing cars, and reckless operation caused the series of crash events. That's the part for me that is almost impossible to reconcile. I understand that police officers have an almost impossible job to do. I have incredible respect for the women and the men in law enforcement that protect us every single day. It does not mean they're flawless. And it does not mean that bad people can't infiltrate that system. Now, I don't believe necessarily that the police officers involved are bad people. Now, I know a lot of you immediately are jumping to that body cam footage, which I'll talk about in a second. But it's very hard for me to read the last line of that statement from state police. This is a press release from state police that reads, no one disputes that he, Kyren Lacy, was behind the crash scene. His swerving, passing cars, and reckless operation caused the series of crash events. That's what I have to talk about. And that's what we'll do next here. It's Locked on LSU, your team every day. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus. Powered by Peloton IQ, it's their most advanced equipment yet. designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors. This is the training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. And I love how Peloton IQ system offers real-time strength coaching. It actually tracks your reps. It suggests the right weights and corrects your form, making every rep safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. That's ONE, onepeloton.com. So the statement issued there by Louisiana State Police is perplexing. And to be completely candid, many of you may know that I am the publisher at louisianasports.net. And before we published that statement, I and our writers and our team had a very long conversation trying to decipher what exactly state police meant there. Are they saying, like in the first part of that statement, that they gathered information and the 17th Judicial determined there was sufficient evidence for a warrant, and that's why they deduced Kyren Lacy was responsible? Or are they saying now, with the benefit of hindsight and all of the information disclosed by Attorney Ori, they still believe that Kyren Lacy was at fault? I mean, that's the part that's really troublesome for me. The last line is, his swerving, passing cars, and reckless operation caused the series of crash events. That's problematic because as you look at this, and if you were to go through the previous episode that we did here on the show, and I would appreciate it very much if you did, or if you want to go watch the full 44-minute interview with attorney Matt Ori, which would probably be even better, candidly, than watching my podcast on it, you can go watch the entire thing for yourself. He diagrams the entire series of events that unfolded. And what's very clear is that there's a woman in what is determined to be vehicle 2 who makes a sharp 75-degree turn a half a second before impact with a gold truck. That's the man who was in the if you saw the security or the body cam footage of the trooper with a man, that's the gold truck. So this man riding the gold truck is going 28 miles an hour. He never aggressively brakes. The woman in vehicle 2, with a half a second before impact, swerves at a 75-degree angle, making impact with the other vehicle, the vehicle in which Mr. Hall was a passenger, making impact there, which ultimately led to his fatal injuries. Kyren Lacy was 100 yards away from that. I don't know how anybody with the forensic black box and eyewitness accounts and now video evidence can deduce that Kyren Lacy was responsible. That's the really tricky part. So state police, in issuing this statement, feels like they're doing a greater disservice to themselves and to Kyren Lacy. Now, I personally, now I'm going to editorialize for a second here. I believe two things need to happen. Number one is the state trooper who was assigned to interview the eyewitness in the gold truck needs to be investigated. I'm not suggesting that trooper should be whatever many of the people are suggesting. I fully understand being a police officer is a very difficult job. Remember, that trooper was not present at the scene. So he did not see what transpired and then efforted to change the narrative. He or other troopers arrive at the scene where they were gathering where evidence was gathered. And based on somebody's testimony, they were to believe that the Dodge Charger was responsible based on eyewitness accounts. And as they continue to collect data, maybe they truly believed the Dodge Charger was at fault, which we now know is not the case. The problem certainly is that you have body cam footage of this trooper speaking to an eyewitness, and the eyewitness gives an account, and that account is not reflected in that trooper's report, the written report. They're diametrically opposed. That's the real problem here. Why did this man give a statement that was then not reflected in the written report and not signed by the witness? That's a problem. That needs to be investigated. I think we can all agree to that. The other part that I believe needs to be investigated is the woman driving vehicle 2. Because truthfully, she is the one responsible for this wreck. And in the evidence, in the report, she describes that she was eating her Funyuns and listening to music. And then ultimately, she's the one who caused the wreck. She's the one who impacted the other Kia carrying Mr. Hall, which led to his fatal injuries. She's the one who, it would appear, based on the data we now have, was not paying attention and ultimately had to swerve to avoid hitting the gold truck, not because of Kyren Lacy, because she wasn't paying attention to the road. This is me speculating, by the way. I want to be very clear. This is me speculating based on the evidence that we have. She was not paying attention. She swerved to avoid impact with the gold truck. She hit the other Kia. She's the one responsible for this wreck and a man's death. She's the one who should be investigated and potentially prosecuted. And she, like Kyren Lacy, like every other law-abiding American citizen, deserves their day in court. And you are presumed innocent until proven guilty. But there's enough evidence here to suggest Kyren Lacy was not at fault. It was this woman driving the other car. And now, as it continues to evolve and develop, state police has issued this statement. And it's odd because I don't know if this is necessarily going away, but state police has issued a statement in response to Mr. Ori's disclosure of evidence. And now Attorney Ori has issued another statement. And I want to get into that as we continue here. It is Locked On LSU, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by Square, your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that make the neighborhood the neighborhood. These are the places that become an extension of home, whether it's the sports bar dedicated to your team's fan base, the spot with the best wings in town for game day, or that beloved local chain that's been rooted in your community for years. These businesses are what bring people together, whether your neighborhood business and when your neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. So Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/lockedoncollege to learn more. That's square.com/go/lockedoncollege. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square. We'll see you in the neighborhood. And today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, Put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. Yeah, I've built parlays, I've tried player props, even followed live lines during games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or you love diving into stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So, what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. That's FanDuel.com. So, there's one further advancement in the story, and I don't believe it's going to be the last. So after the state police on Saturday issued their statement, remember on Friday is when Attorney Ori, the 44-minute wide-ranging interview with Attorney Ori on Friday afternoon and evening was released. On Saturday, state police released their statement in response. And then on Sunday, Attorney Matt Ori, Kyren Lacy's attorney, issued another statement. And I'm candidly just curious how many times this is going to continue to evolve via statements in the public sector. But in any event, Attorney Ori wrote, I want to make it clear that the recent post on the public opinion court suggesting that Kyren Lacy's life was lost because of the actions of the district attorney is not only misleading, it's deeply offensive. That couldn't be further from the truth. The DA did not simply accept the charges presented by state police. Instead, she took a step that many would not have. She conducted her own independent investigation. This wasn't mandatory. It was an extra effort she made to ensure fairness and neutrality in the process. This is exactly the type of leadership we should expect from our district attorney, a commitment to justice regardless of external pressure or any narrative being pushed. Thanks to her diligent work, discrepancies within the state police report were uncovered, discrepancies that could have altered the course of this case. Her decision to independently verify the facts ensured that the investigation was thorough and properly handled, something that should be applauded, not attacked. Goes on to say transparency and impartiality are what build trust in our justice system. Goes on, simply put, it's because of her, the DA, and her administration that we now have a greater clarity in this case. And finally, I can only imagine how difficult her role must be, especially when there are discrepancies between her findings and those of the investigating agencies. But she stood firm, meticulously prepared her report, and was ready to present everything to the grand jury. The level of dedication should set the standard for how justice is pursued. Signed, Matthew D. Ori, Ori Law Group. So I think the thing that's worth mentioning there most is there are two investigative bodies here. And I'm not a legal expert, obviously. I am a sports talk radio host. I do have a background in news, and I did news for several years before I ever started in sports. That does not make me a legal expert. I just have a modicum of experience in this. But there are two investigative bodies here. You had the Lafourche Parish District Attorney, who is meant and assigned with prosecuting criminals in Lafourche Parish. And you have Louisiana State Police, who took on this investigation. And what Attorney Ori is saying there very clearly is that the two investigations yielded different results. We know some of the state police findings. However, in the district attorney's findings, there was a conflict. So the district attorney, as Attorney Ori is saying here, did not simply accept the state police's findings. The district attorney did their own investigation and pointed out discrepancies that were going to be presented to a grand jury. So as to say, the district attorney disagreed with state police's findings, and still Louisiana State Police continues to purport this narrative that Kyren Lacy was at fault. Again, the statement from state police on Saturday was, which is almost unfathomable at this point, but that statement from state police suggests still that Kyren Lacy is at fault. Again, the final word of that statement is, no one disputes that he was behind the crash scene. His swerving, passing cars, and reckless operation caused the series of crash events. Not could have caused, not we thought initially caused, still defiantly saying caused. When the district attorney disagrees and video evidence disagrees. So I mentioned there's two things I want to see happen. Number one is there needs to be an investigation into state police's finding, in particular, state trooper who had the interview with the witness driving the gold truck. Why was there a discrepancy between the statement given in the body cam footage and the written report? That's one. Number two, is the woman in vehicle 2 needs to be questioned about her statement, because all the evidence points to the fact that she was at fault and maybe wrongly accused Kyren Lacy. I'm not trying to accuse her wrongfully, but those are the things that at this point need to be addressed, and hopefully they will. And as they are, we'll continue to discuss them here on Locked on LSU. If you're listening on your favorite podcast app, please subscribe. If you're on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video, and let a friend know that if they love the Tigers, we got you here every single day. It's Locked on LSU, your team every day.